Next up is Shannon Gnad. I met Shannon back in September. I got a call from an old friend that said, Larry, you got to look at this product. The product is called Ensoil Algae. And I've seen some algae products and heard about them. But Shannon came to visit us back in mid-September, and we talked about their program and went out and looked at some fields that we had our programs on and saw some similarities and just kind of hit it off. And I like what I'm seeing with some of the results I'm seeing back. I just was on a webinar with the company earlier this week, I think it was. And I think it's an important one that we take a look at. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon. I'll let you give a little bit of your history and your background and turn it over to you.
I'll do that. Thank you, Larry. You guys able to hear me all right? Is the mic up? All right, good. All right, I get the after lunch spot, and I know what I'm in for, so I'm trying to keep it lively. I'm slated for 45 minutes. I think I can keep it in 45. I got a lot of data I can share. I did parse it back. When it comes to this data part, I'll keep it more concentrated in this part of the world, Iowa, Minnesota, maybe pulling some Kansas data as well. But I'm with Ensoil Algae, like Larry mentioned. Ensoil Algae is a young company. We've been in commercial for 4 years now, growing rapidly from a sales standpoint. We're more than one hat, which is not very typical in a small startup world. I was hired on as Chief Revenue Officer to look for revenue opportunities with Ensoil. Also, wear the Chief Agronomist hat within the company, head up the trialing programs, and also Sales Director. To give you an idea of my background is, if somebody asks me what my occupation is, I identify as an agronomist. At a college, I spent 21 years as an independent crop consultant in Kansas, South Central Kansas, in the Pratt, Greensburg area. We've seen plenty of southern rust down there. In fact, I got to know southern rust probably 20 years ago. We didn't have it every year, but we had it probably every 2 or 3 years. Southern rust is one of those, most of my ground was irrigated. I checked it once a week. If I had some rust coming on later in the season, some fields got checked twice a week because it's how fast it moves. It's a different animal. I spent some time in Iowa, Larry alluded to, this past summer, and I saw the rust you guys had up here, the southern rust, and brought back some memories, not always good memories, but I know it's very unique that it made it this far north. And I was even in Minnesota, and they had it really bad up there as well. Kansas had it really bad this year as well, so it was a pretty big swath. I'll talk a little bit about the facts first on Ensoil, and then some background on it, and then I wanted to definitely share some data. You know, you bring up an algae product for most folks, you kind of have to start from scratch. It can be unique, in some cases not unique. What Ensoil Algae is, it's a concentration of a live cell Chlorella vulgaris, green algae. It's under, if you have to give it an umbrella, you put it in a biostimulant umbrella, but I'll make the case, and some of our feedback is that it almost needs to be in its own category. It's got some very, very distinctive properties to it. Besides soil function, it serves as endophyte as well. It gets the opportunity and also does things in the phytosphere through a foliar uptake mechanism with it. With what it does, it's very involved in nutrient cycling, stimulation of microbes. We've seen some great stress adaptation qualities to it, crop resilience, increasing carbon, organic carbon, and certainly a very, very good increase in crop performance, yield, and quality. We're registered for sale in all 50 states, in the United States as well as Canada. We're already certified, so we get some traction with the organic folks. The jug is our production facilities right now are in northern Florida, in Charleston, South Carolina. Our home base is Charleston, South Carolina. We guarantee at least 10 million CFUs per milliliter. A lot of our batches come in a little hotter than that or a little higher than that, but that's what we guarantee. And I get this question a lot, it does not need to be refrigerated. like other biologicals, keep it out of direct sunlight. Below 85 is ideal, above 45, you know, and certainly don't let it freeze. But that's just kind of some high level overall. I mentioned that we're a Chlorella vulgaris. It's what the benefits of this live green algae is something that far preceded us. You can get online right now, read a couple of days on the benefits of Chlorella. It can literally be found everywhere in the world. It's not new. It's not new here in Webster City, Iowa. It's not new in Brazil, Egypt, Europe, wherever you go. It's got its roots and is the same strain as the Chlorella vulgaris we have. So there's nothing new. It's got known benefits to humans, livestock, and plants. What we've done as a company is not claim that we invented anything. What we did invent was we found a nice, convenient way to put it in a jug and ship it to a farm or ship it to a field to be applied. There is companies out there that you can look up that you can actually produce your own vulgaris strain right out the field. You can get some nice, expensive equipment, produce it, and then apply it within a very short time so it stays alive by the time you put it on the field. That works. I know a company that's doing it. It's having some success. It's very expensive, and logistically there is some challenges to it. But the reason I bring that up is not that it's not a good business model. It's just the benefits is established on vulgaris, on Chlorella vulgaris for agriculture. It's just what we did was we took. It started in South Carolina. Our founder found some really, really nice benefits on some vegetable growing there in the Charleston area. Our founders found a natural pathway that opened up, that, this being a microbe, it needs photosynthesis to survive. So it's autotrophic. It has to produce its own food source to survive. Our founders found a way to open up a natural pathway where it actually, you open up this pathway, it becomes a heterotrophic organism, which means it can live on other organic material. It doesn't have to produce its own. And then we found a way to keep it in what's called a mixotrophic state where it can go back and forth. If it's in sunlight, it can produce through photosynthesis. If it's you put it in a jug, put it in a closet for 4 months, it'll stay alive as long as it's got some organic material for it to consume. So our patent that's pending is that process for us to be able to bottle it up or jug it up and ship it out. Shelf life is 6 months. That's what we will guarantee. It will live longer than that, but our label right now does say 6 months. I mentioned all the benefits of Chlorella vulgaris. I've listed a few here. The main one is it stimulates biology in the soil. In a lot of cases, it wakes up biology in the soil that's innate. In other cases, it'll increase the microbial populations of the organisms within the soil and creates more biodiversity. I'll share a little bit of soil tests that we've run. I could be up here for 2 days and share soil tests that we ran to show how it functions from a soil function standpoint of the soil. There's certainly no need for that. I'll keep it at 2 or 3 results, just kind of give you an idea of what we expect to see with the application of our algae. It enhances chlorophyll and photosynthetic capacity. That's a big one. That drives yield, it drives quality, it drives a lot of good things. It also is very good at stress adaptation. The growers that used algae this year had a very good year. Stresses can vary from year to year. This year, like I mentioned, a lot of our results were Kansas, Iowa here, Minnesota, Nebraska, really good results. It's not a standalone against stress, but it works very well to help adapt to stress. Water retention is a good one. I've got water retention sometimes is, infiltration in the soil, which is a function of increased soil health in itself. Also seeing some nice results where it helps and aids in drought stress as well. And then this, nutrient cycling and density. Nutrient cycling is the key. I think that's where we really see our most gains, profitability and ROI is around the biodiversity component. It's just the key to resilience, the key to nutrient cycling. And, for somebody that's looking to incorporate another input on their farm within their current operation, letting soil do what it can do, what Mother Nature enabled it to do. It's amazing once you kind of start to tap into that. And I'll kind of go through some results where it doesn't really matter where you are in your operation. I'll show some results and make the case that I think, including algae into your current program, has it fit in pretty much all situations. Oh, this slide gets a little busy. What the algae does, it sends out phytohormones, which signal biology in the soil, microbes in the soil. Nothing new, only the algae does it very, very well. It increases, like I said, the amount of microbial populations, but it also improves the organic carbon component of it, which is the food, but the carbon is what drives the whole system. Soil is amazing. I think one of the previous speakers mentioned that there's 1 billion organisms. I've read there's 10 billion 10 billion organisms in 1 teaspoon of soil, maybe a billion, different organisms. I'd say maybe 1% or less we probably actually identified. Most of them we just know do good things, but we really never named them or really understand exactly what they're doing. But there is a few that we do, and there is microbes in the soil that are very instrumental once they're stimulated to solubilize potassium. Some microbes specialize in solubilize, from a soluble standpoint, phosphorus, calcium. There's nitrogen fixating bacteria. There's a few that we've identified as being very important to some of our needs, from a macronutrient standpoint. And there's a bunch that do a lot of good things, from a micronutrient standpoint as well. A lot of those we're able to measure from a soil sample standpoint, so I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Just that, as a function of algae, besides yield, quality aspects, we just expect to see a function in the soil pretty much from year one, and I'll kind of highlight that as well. I need to watch my time here a little bit. Yeah, we're good. I show this slide. This is one example. Dr. James White did a really interesting study for us 2 years ago that showed that our algae is indeed an endophyte. We had data previously that gave us the clues that it was. He put out a paper in the research that said, yeah, this is an endophyte. And in this case, in this example here, this is showing an interaction between a nitrogen fixating bacteria and our algae. The algae cells are actually bigger than the bacteria, and the case that Dr. James White kind of, and he's out of Rutgers, put together was these algae are attracted, or the bacteria are attracted to the algae cells, and in a lot of cases actually get inside the algae. And with the algae being, besides the soil function aspect, it wants to be inside the plant. So the algae are migrating towards the root tips. In this example here, they're carrying the nitrogen fixating bacteria within them to get inside the plant. Besides carrying the chlorophyll component, they're also bringing those nitrogen fixating bacteria with them as well, either along the root tip themselves or inside the root. Just an illustration of a function that, in the case of nitrogen deficiency, this kind of outlines, the process that Dr. James White confirmed what we were seeing in the field. Very fascinating. This, like I said, this is an example. This kind of interaction happens to a lot of different organisms with the algae. I like this slide because of the root hair aspect to it, showing how the algae do collect along the root hair, which is what they do a lot of good. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but there is some very distinct differences between a live cell green algae like our product and different kelp, seaweed, extract products out there. Great products. These other products do really good things. Even back in my consulting days, I recommended a few as well. But there's 2 or 3 big differences, besides the obvious that ours is alive and can stay alive for weeks or months in the soil. And so it's not just a one-time event of the algae doing good things and stimulating the microbes and doing the interactions. A metabolite, which are most algae or part seaweed and kelp extracts, is kind of a one-time punch. It does its good thing, there's no life to it. Another difference is the algae is an endophyte. A lot of these kelp and seaweed products, which we get compared to a lot, are not endophytic. So just a couple of differences. Once again, good products, it's just ours is, I'll make the case better because you get the benefits over and over again for a period of time. So I just thought it'd be good, because this is a question I get quite a bit. All right, application. I'm going to focus on corn and soybeans, primarily during my visit or presentation here. We, the thing about algae is it benefits any plant that undergoes photosynthesis, which, obviously it has a pretty broad range. In my roles that I'm doing now my background has been row crop, wheat, cereal grains, corn and soy, and alfalfa. Now my knowledge of agriculture extended to the Salinas Valley in California, to Florida, Texas, pecan groves in West Texas, and on and on. So that part has been very exciting. The algae works really well in all of the above. It works very well in corn and soy as well, but that's what I'll focus on today. But this kind of gives you a rate. The use rate is 8 ounces, so it gives you an idea. It's not a high necessarily low use. 8 ounces are standard rate. Most of our protocols in corn and soy are going to be 1 to 2 applications. We got some folks that'll go 3. By far, the vast majority go 2. We see good results at 1 as well. Most of the time, you want in row crops, your first application in and around planting. You want your biology in the best ways it can be going into the start of the growing season. In furrow works well. 2x2 star works well. We got some folks put it on with their burn down, 2 to 3 weeks before they plant, and I'll kind of highlight that in some of our data. Second shot's usually that first spray that you put across the field. A lot of times it'll be a herbicide spray. Real nice opportunity to put on your second shot of algae. It's compatible with everything. Note the mixing order does not matter, which I know in spray world, a lot of things you have to pay attention to what order, what goes into the tank, or you can have a mess. Algae, what's nice about it, there's none of those concerns. And you can put it in the harshest chemistry synthetics you can think of, and it will stay alive for days, in most cases weeks. When I first came on with Ensoil Algae back in March, that was probably the first things I had to see to believe it. So we used our biologist and me and a couple of other people in the company, pretty much got everything we could find, from fungicides to nitrogen, 32%, insecticides, zinc, sulfur, everything to see. I wanted to make sure that was the case. Everything except for generic capture went 14 days before the cell counts dropped at all. The algae's got it's a really thick cell wall to it, so you can understand these products amazingly well. After 14 weeks, there was a little bit of decline, which you expect that. But for most application experiences, even if it's a rain event comes and it sits in the tank for 2 or 3 days, 4 days, it'll still be alive, and that's important to know. The generic capture, by the way, didn't start falling off till 7 days. So even did, which I thought it would be in a pyrethroid, wouldn't be quite as harsh. Wasn't the case. It was actually one that fell off the fastest, which I thought was interesting. I'm going to talk about corn and soy mainly. There's some really cool things going on with other crops. We're doing some work with the citrus industry. Like most industries, they got some challenges as well. There's something going on called greening that will devastate our citrus production here in the United States. I'm not saying we got the solution, but we're hoping to be part of the solution. The main thing there is they just need diversity in their soils. If you see how citrus is growing, they just need more diversity. Would help a lot. And the work that Herb Young done here is, besides yield, he saw a tremendous increase in nutrient density of oranges growing with algae. There's a lot going on in this chart. I won't even start to have time to go through it. But algae, besides yield, shows tremendously amount of potential for nutrient density. And for those in this room that that see the connection between farming practices, microbial diversity in the soil, by diversity, it's directly linked to food, an orange tasting like an orange, and having all the goodies that our fruit and vegetables grain used to have, is maybe falling off a little bit with some of the farming practices we've had to implement in synthetics. But the algae in orange is a really good example of what's possible with nutrient density in algae. Same thing with strawberries. This is another interesting study. I don't know if you can see those down there, but besides yield, quality aspects, you know, there's phytochemicals you can test for. There is a way to test nutrient density in food. There's a couple labs out there doing it. But the shelf life is interesting here. The only difference between these here turning fuzzy white and in that one and in those other two rows was algae added to the system. So you can see that that's interesting. I'm not going to say I have it all figured out, but that's catching the attention of a lot of folks, because just gaining hours on produce in a market will get you a large market share, let alone a day or two. And this stuff is on our website if you want to read into it. I'm probably getting too thorough here, but just stuff like this, when I came on with Ensoil, I find interesting because, you know, we're in this room, we're mainly on row crops, but food production in general it's related. And I think it's a nice illustration of what algae can do, and, you know, its full scope. I can talk for a while on alfalfa, but I won't. But it's showing some nice quality, not so much nutrient quality or you know, nutrient density, but just parameters that are important to the hay-grown folks, particularly alfalfa. On the trial data, like I said, I chose to stick pretty much within a certain parameter here where we're standing. I also handpicked trials that show farmers at different levels in their approach to production, from being, I'm going to keep doing what I need to do now. I'm not interested in really changing anything. I've got my fertilizer program. I'm going to keep it where it's at. And for those folks, I got some data that'll show what algae can do. I got a lot of folks using biologicals already. You know, in some cases a full portfolio, maybe, you know, and in some cases 1 or 2 other products. I was wanting to show some nice data for those. And I've got the folks that are pretty much, all right, I want to cut fertilizer. I want to get as much biologicals out there as I can, and I want to be aggressive. So I kind of have the 3 different buckets, so to speak. The first one here is just when I called, just for the guy, like, hey, you know, your product interests me. What can it do? This is a contract researcher group based out of Great Bend, Kansas. This particular plot's near Manhattan, Kansas. Very, very conventional. Uses standard program, nitrogen program. 2 applications. This summer, this area got some nice rain. Really nice yields for this part of Kansas. You can see the yields on there. That's for Kansas. That's not Iowa bushels, but for Kansas, northeast Kansas, that's really good bushels. The only thing difference in this contract research plot we were in was one had 2 shots of 8 ounces of algae. The other one had no algae. Nice uplift. This, you know, from a data standpoint, solid. You know, there was some stand differences as well. Nice ROI. Just something that I just thought that's a nice result to start off with. Northeast Kansas is Iowa, but it's similar enough where I thought that was relevant. Desiree lives near Albert Lee, Minnesota. I was up there earlier this year. She wanted to see she has a drone service. She wanted to see what just 1 shot of algae would do to a cornfield, nothing else different. So she had a field, she put on some 5-acre blocks of algae, and saw some nice results. You know, I outlined it here. There were different application dates. Real nice results. Desiree's real happy. I talked to her 2 weeks ago. She said, I'm going to put algae on every single acre on my farm. So, you know, once again, she kind of knew what she's looking for. She was gracious enough to give me a little bit of her data. Now, she did more trialing than this, but this is the data that she saw, or she shared with me. She was real happy with the results. Here's another grower from, is it north of here? I haven't been to his farm yet, but it's about, Adam, is it north of here? Is that where, yeah, hour or so north of here. is Keith. He had a really nice trial last year in 2024. What Keith did was he had a field where he put hog manure on at pretty good levels. Algae works very well with other biological products. It works extremely well with manures. There's just a lot of goodies in manures. I know sometimes there's so much going on in manures that's good that some soils aren't able to utilize everything. In Kansas, our soils, a lot of it gets tied up before it can be utilized, or gets tied up in the source that's not accessible to a plant. What the algae does, the way it stimulates biology and interacts with biology, from an agronomist standpoint, without getting too technical, I think it takes advantage of more of the goodie of manure. Now I'm going to show you results that looks a little outrageous, but this actually is not outrageous at all. This is, I'm not going to say we're going to get 40 or 50 bushels over time, but I saw some nice results come in this fall on guys using manure, or growers using manure, that weren't too far from these numbers. But he obviously had a nice yield data map. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but getting 5 or 6 strips, just like count, I think it's 6 strips. The only thing different in this field was had manure, hog manure. The green strips was the algae on 2 applications of 8 ounces. It was all he did. One was, when did he put the first one on? Oh yeah, in this case, Keith actually put it on about a month ahead of planting with his burn down. And then he put the second one on with his early herbicide application, which is nice because in this case, there was no additional application cost. From an ROI standpoint, that's important. It's compatible with his burn down as well as his post herbicide. Keith had some really nice results. Keith's another one where this year he's putting on every acre. In fact, I kind of lost my trial. Keith is really good about putting in trials. He's given us a trial this year, but the data wasn't quite ready. The trial this year was, as well, I treated every acre, but I got something going on between 2 and 3 applications. I want to see if there's a difference. So that's the data that we're going to get from Keith here this fall. He just didn't quite have his yield maps pulled off the combines yet. But real nice illustration, I think, of success for somebody who just kept the program as it was, just added some algae. This one here is, this was in Oakley, Kansas, northwest Kansas, very dry environment. I'm from Hayes, Kansas originally. I live in Manhattan, Kansas now. I grew up in western Kansas where we expect droughts. If it's not a drought, it's an odd year for us. This part of Oakley this year actually had some nice rain early. Got everything off to a good start. And then what's typical of Kansas was the rain just shut off for about 3 months. So this trial was out in that environment. This was through a contract researcher, a performance crop researcher we used out there. And two shots of algae at 8 ounces apiece, one with the pre-emerge, the other with the post-emerge herbicide. Real nice results. The corn end doing 104, almost 105 bushel with the algae, a little over 90, almost 91 without the algae. Both those are actually very good yields for that part of the world. But I like this trial because it shows nothing else was altered in the program other than the algae, and it shows the stress adaptation capability of algae. We had some other real nice results. Once again, this is not just a one-off. I chose to stick with a lot of the contract researchers. I could have produced a lot more of grower trials, but I always thought for this presentation, this kind of tells the story. Real nice uplift, real nice ROI obviously as well. I just want to include more pictures. This wasn't a trial. This was Davis Farms in Elkton, South Dakota. Agronomists get excited about roots. I think everybody should get excited about roots and should carry a shovel in their pickup because you're going a lot with a shovel. This farmer was from that cloth. He sent a bunch of photos. Some photos I wasn't even sure what he was doing. He just was digging up his field. But in this field, he's got 3 nice pictures. Like I said, not a trial. He just put up the Ensoil on one field and he kind of compared it to the fields on his farm in the area. But that's about as good as root hair development I think you're probably going to see. I don't know how it comes across on the screen, but that's amazing looking roots. This guy was really, really impressed. He said he's going to use it on every acre this next year in 2026. This particular field did 207 bushel. And I don't have the details from a trial standpoint other than he was real impressed and thought he had some nicest looking corn on his farm where he used the Ensoil, and even threw in, he thought for the whole area. All right, I got to watch my time here a little bit. I didn't want to get too data heavy, but I just wanted to cover, still good. Irrigated corn. Now, I mentioned that algae can be used to, so I kind of covered the folks where nothing changed. I just want something from my farm. I'm going to keep my program. We're getting a very large increasing client base. Folks coming to us and say, I need fertilizer. I want to stick with fertilizer on my farm. I don't want to short my crop, but I'm going to need to cut back somewhere with the way my inputs are, commodity prices are. I'm going to do something different. I need something to kind of help me. I have an idea. I've been taking soil tests. I want to do it responsibly, but I need another product or two that would help me kind of, feel better about cutting back on my inputs a little bit. This trial here is in Kansas as well. It's a contract researcher, performance crop research again. We're in this one, and this is not a recommendation, but I designed the trial. I just want to see, all right, let's just do a 25% reduction in nitrogen. Let's keep everything else the same. It's irrigated, so if you notice that the rate of the urea was 329 pounds of urea, so the control still got a little over 200 pounds of nitrogen. I think the control probably got 270 something. 2 shots of algae again. But these are the results, and I like these results because these are results that from feedback in the field we often expect. The untreated 252 irrigated, obviously very good corn. We did 2 shots of Ensoil at 100% of the nitrogen, the full urea rate, and then we did a shot with 25% of the nitrogen reduction. Some folks say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would the less fertilizer yield more? A way to explain it, and there's always, I don't want this to be a catch-all, but synthetic fertilizer is really hard on biology. The less use of it, the better you're going to be off. We have to use it. We have to produce, and use fertilizer. But the less you use of it, and the more you can incorporate that piece on synthetics and work in a biological product to help mineralize and wake up some biology that mineralizes those nutrients. In this case, the nitrogen fixators. It puts the field in a better shape. I don't think this is a fluke at all. I think this illustrates that with Ensoil, you can still maintain your yields, to a certain extent with the reduction in input and less synthetics. Not always, but can sometimes mean more yield as well. Real nice ROI. I like this ROI because, well, the yield lift alone had a nice ROI to it. You start getting into the fertilizer bill a little bit and still maintain yields, obviously things get better. This is a farmer here in Iowa, from Aurelia, Iowa. This is an illustration of a farmer that's been using a pretty full portfolio of biologicals already on his farm for a number of years, maybe a little bit more evolved, really paying attention to his biology, takes a ton of soil tests, and is really starting to carve into his inputs. I think I need to talk to this side of the room a little more. The Guy Fishman is, I think, an example of somebody that's looking at this biology and doing some good things. Guy uses algae on all his acres, let me backtrack that. He used it on entire fields this past year, and he'll use it on all his acres in 2026. For trials, though, what was important to Guy is the soil outcome in his soil and what he's getting from it. So he's got 2 really nice, and these are the only 2 sets of soil tests I'm going to cover because of time. But in Guy's case, this particular trial here was, he took a field, he treated it in soil, 2 applications at 8 ounces apiece, and then he, on one field, he kept 60 acres untreated in soil, kept everything else the same. And then he was running a handy test and some other soil health indicators. Kind of a quick snapshot of the outcomes. These are good numbers, but these are actually numbers we expect. Once again, this is not just something that I selected for this presentation. We have files and files of sample results like this. But I think it shows you, though, some things that really, just 2 shots of algae. This one's a big one. We outnumbers the available organic carbon available that you can free up is a big one. That's the fuel source for your microbial population. If there's not enough organic carbon out there, they start eating organic matter, which is not necessarily a good thing. When a soil loses organic matter, we outnumber it probably needs to be stimulated a little bit or developed. That's a nice outcome here. Soil respiration is always a good indicator that you got more critters out there breathing. The slant test is an indicator not of available nitrogen, but just showing some increase in activity around the nitrogen availability front. And then I think the important one is it's really looking up the phosphorus microbes responsible for soluble phosphorus, biological available phosphorus. That's a percentage jump. Like I said, same field, just one was treated 2 shots of algae, one not, and then not treated, real nice jump. Potassium, nice jump. Health score, overall health score was a number of factors, real good indicator. This is a second set of sample results. This was this past year from Guy as well. This field here it wasn't treated or untreated. He just took a field that he treated with Ensoil Algae at 2 shots. He just took 2 zones out of the field. What's the acres on them? I probably should look that up. Yeah, but there were portions of the field where he kept separated with no algae, and he just pulled soil samples. He treated both fields with 2 shots of algae, and on the June 9th, that was before the 2 shots. July 18th was after the 2 shots of algae, and he just wanted to see what the difference was in the 2 zones of where his biology was before and after. Now, some of this is your biology or some of your soil attributes will change. I mean, if you take a soil health test in March and try to compare it to June, you're going to get different results because your biology is going to be a lot more active in June than it is going to be in March or for that matter earlier than that. For June and July, we both thought this was going to be a nice snapshot. Biology is already going good by June, probably the same thing with July. So it was a nice window to kind of compare apples to apples. And just to kind of keep moving along across the board, over all the soil matrix parameters, measurables, we're showing increased soil health activity, all the way he's hoping, an increase in microbial activity. You got the soluble microbes going and doing what they were designed to do. These are good results. This one had calcium as well. Great results. All right, one more example, then I'll move over to soybeans. This is a farmer in northern Minnesota. Example of a gentleman who wanted to look at his fertilizer, reduce his inputs. What Dave did is his first name. It shows 138 pounds. He actually was planning on getting more of that on. That wasn't his initial intention. It just got really wet up there. And he actually didn't get what he wanted on just because of the weather. But I guess for testing purposes, and he said his carryover wasn't that much either. Right? But anyway, he got 138 on. He was using some other micronutrients, pulled a lot of tests, had a really good handle on what he had in his soil. So he wasn't just willy-nilly, saying, I'm going to cut this, and this. But he put algae on a couple of his fields, and he's on a video call with me and one of my sales reps here a couple weeks ago, just ecstatic with what he saw. And once again, sometimes it's relative. This wasn't a side-by-side. He was comparing the other fields he had on his farm. You can read the quotes here. These are David's own words. Just really, really happy with what he saw. Ecstatic about the yield. Very wet year, a lot of challenges. Made the case when we got off the phone that he was going to use algae on every acre and for 26. So I don't need necessarily going to keep repeating that. I just think it's a good indicator that what your product is doing on these farms is working. And then as a precursor, before this, all these farms that I talked to, Kansas, Minnesota, even David up in Minnesota had bad southern rust this year. So even with a year that was wet, with really, really bad southern rust, including Kansas results, still performed very well. Then he used some on a digester. Was really happy with the way the stars were darkening. I just have to go over the top, but he thought his cover crop behind the digester looked like a miniature golf course, so. Russell Hendrick, I'm gonna keep going a little bit. He just got the results to us last week. He did a really nice trial in his part of North Carolina. Some might know who Russell Hendrick is. He does a lot of social media, very well known in the regenerative ag circles. He uses a lot of algae. He uses algae on all his acres. He's made some very nice statements about the algae. He had a trial this year that we was able to film while he was cutting it on his combine. Had a really nice uplift with our Ensoil Algae. That wasn't, I mean, I got the numbers here. Probably should have memorized it, but we just got the data in. But 8 bushel uplift on Ensoil versus not. So Russell's ground is really, really top. It's up here when it comes to biology. So he's got a lot of biology working. He does a lot of biological inputs. Very regenerative focused in his approach to agriculture. What was really significant though, and I wish I could show the results, but I'm not going to, is he had two other biological products in the trial. And in both cases, the algae by itself versus control performed well. The other 2 biologicals performed very well. But when Ensoil was coupled with the other 2 biological products, there was a very, very noticeable increase in performance on the Ensoil by itself versus the other 2 products by themselves as well. In fact, one product saw an increase of 13 bushel when it was coupled with Ensoil. The other one, almost 12 bushel increase. And once again, I use this example not as a one-off, but we have a lot of folks using other biological products that made the comment like, you know, I've been doing these things for a year or 2 or more on my farm. It just seems like the algae kind of lets me have that one more rung on the ladder I was after. And that's what Russell described it as. He's the one, this is from Russell Hendrick, he identifies algae as, he sees every microbe as a partner. And that's a quote from Russell. Russell puts algae in his own category, and he puts a little bit of algae in everything he puts out in his fields. Now, the reason I mention that is that, once again, there's several buckets. Every farm's kind of, in its own place, so to speak, of where you're at. I think it's a good example is if you're using some biological products already, in fact, Larry's got some great products on his lineup as well. Layer in a shot or 2 of algae, and I think you'll be able to see some of these results aren't just hand-picked results. I mean, it's time after time we're seeing these results. It's not a 1 plus 1, Ensoil plus biological equals 2. It's a lot of it's 1 plus 1 equals 4 or 5. And Russell is a good example of that. I'm going to keep rolling here. I wasn't sure what to do with this data. I thought about maybe not including it. I'll probably get a phone call from a fungicide dealer for the days out, but I didn't know he was doing this. But Russell also put a trial out within our company. We always wondered, and we get questions from our customers like, what would Ensoil, knowing that it does good things in the biosphere, it's got really nice foliar uptake to it. In fact, we got a trial going with Dr. Lane Harris right now out of Kentucky. It's kind of like a James White. We know we're getting foliar uptake through the biosphere. She's going to tell us exactly how much we're getting, just like James White told us and confirmed that we're an endophyte. Russell, like I said, he just laid this data to us last week, but he put Ensoil Algae at 2 different rates. 4-ounce rate, which is off-label, so I probably shouldn't be showing that, and an 8-ounce rate. And I guess you can see the results here. At the 8-ounce rate, there was a 26 bushel increase, and all he did was use here, Biltema, herbicide fungicide, plus Ensoil, and at the half rate, and saw a nice result. I'm not going to talk to it any more than that, other than I'm not surprised by this, but this is our only piece of data on what it would do with a fungicide, so I'll probably leave it at that. Let's talk about soybeans. Dunkerton, Iowa, This was a contract researcher, Crossroads Ag. Has anybody heard of that? It's a group we used out of Dunkerton. Just 2-shot program, nice little 4-bushel uplift. Once again, kind of what we kind of expect. This was here in Iowa this year. Real nice ROI. The suggested farm gate price for our product is $9 an acre for the 8-ounce rate. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but that's what, there's a little bit of leeway there, but that's, for number purposes, that's our recommended rate, or recommended price. Desiree was happy to show some real nice pictures of some fields where she was doing some trialing with the Ensoil. Desiree called it more muscular beans. I think I see what she's talking about there. I mean, I think I can tell which ones look a little bit girthier. I mean, but it's always good though when I actually had lunch with Desiree earlier this summer. I had breakfast. When they bring pictures to you when you're trialing your product from a sales director standpoint, he's like, yeah, that's good, thank you. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw some of these in. I mean, you kind of did. I didn't put the trial results, but she was getting some nice uplift on her trials. Trial from Virginia. I like this one. Virginia's not necessarily close to here, other than it was a contract researcher again that we're using over there. Elevated Ag Solutions, I believe it was. Yeah. In furrow. All right. So somebody asked me, like, if you had I'm gonna give you 1 shot of algae, when would you put it on? The answer would be in and around planting time, either at planting time or within 2 weeks of planting or so is where you want the algae on if it's going to be a 1-shot program. But to kind of dive into a little bit further was, I was wanting to know, and the company wanted to know, is there a difference between in-furrow and a 2x2 starter scenario? I think there is. Not that we don't see great results. This 2x2, most of the corn and soy, at least in Kansas, is planted at 2x2. Most planters or growers I know don't mess around with in-furrow. I think there's parts of the world where it's a little bit more, maybe common. I like this because in-furrow is probably the best way, but it doesn't need to be the only way. And most results I showed you today, it wasn't in-furrow. Just comparing apples to apples, there is there's still a nice ROI with that one as well. Just to be fair, I threw in, we kind of round out, we did some additional CRO testing in Kansas, contract researcher, performance crop research. I did not handpick the best results, so I wanted to throw in all the results from our CRO in Kansas. This one came in at 2.6. Still paying the bills, from an ROI standpoint, but just, and then 1.8, not necessarily blowing the hair back, but I want to include all the CRO work that we did in Kansas. This one was actually an irrigated soybean trial. Here's our friend David from northern Minnesota. He put Ensoil Algae on one of his soybean fields. You can read through here, real ecstatic. He called it the cleanest soybean field he's ever seen. And when he says clean, he's referring to disease pressure. That's what he means by that. He significantly reduced his fertilizer. He done his research, looked at his soil tests, said, hey, I'm going to look that way back. I'm going to put algae and see what it can do. Really, really happy. Hey, some coasts. I got a quote from, just a tremendous success. And you can kind of read through that. Nice bean, 67. He didn't break the house on the yield, but from his standpoint, what he put into it on his farm, like I mentioned earlier, he's going to be using Ensoil on all his acres. So I think that's probably enough data for corn and soy. We get excited about milo in Kansas. I know here in Iowa, I don't think it's real exciting, but it works good in corn and soy, but it works really, really good in milo. Here's 2019. Once again, not a surprise. I mean, it's what the algae does. I'm going to end on this, and then I think I'm pretty good on time, and I can take a question or two now, or maybe Larry, I think he had a session maybe afterwards. Brian Massard is a rancher in Montana. He's a 4-year customer of ours. We've been in production for 4 years. Brian's been a customer all 4 years. I like this illustration. I know this is a big, native grass country, but I think it really illustrates the broadness of an algae product like it is, and the diversity, and that it's not just, engineered, designed, to fit a corn market or a soybean market. It's a natural product. It's kind of its own category, and it does what it does to all crops. Native grass is no exception. Brian used algae the first, would have been 4 seasons ago, on some of his native grass pastures. He gets 1 cutting a year on his grass. There's some really cool videos if you ever want to learn more. Just go to our website, and we've got I think a 50-second clip and a 5.5-minute clip from Brian who kind of talks through it. But what he noticed was he put it on some of his native grass. He's got a large cow-calf herd. He's got a lot of bulls that he runs as well. But his cows and his heifers and cows spend the summer months up in the mountains. He pulls them down to his ranch there in the valley. They're very mineral deficient when they come off the mountains. It is what it is up there. I think it's more rocky terrain up high. And they start down the trace mineral, or the mineral is a necessity to kind of get them back conditioned in good shape again when they come in. Brian's very meticulous. And so when it came into fall, when he was rolling out the bales, he'd roll out his algae-treated round bales on one side, about 20 yards next to it, he'd roll out the non-algae treated bales. Now, first of all, he knew something was up because you can see that these bottom bales are the algae treated bales. The top ones are not. So visually, there is a visual difference. I think that's what got his curiosity up, like, well, these shouldn't be different. It came off the same field, the same rain or no rain. Why do these look different? Well, the cattle knew there was something different because he'd roll those bales out time after time, and there's videos showing this. His cows and his heifers would walk over the non-algae treated bales that he rolled out, and every day snarf up the algae treated bales. I mean, pretty much rear end or rear end, snarf it up, and there could be, the algae, non-algae treated still laying there when they're done. Now we all kind of know livestock. The reason why I'm standing here today as an Ensoil representative was a large part to me watching this video. I've been around livestock and cattle. There's something going on there. What was different? The only thing different was he put 1 shot of algae. After understanding the algae now, I'm convinced, and I'm not the only one that's convinced, that the algae woke up some microbes, some biology in the soil that hadn't been awake for a while. For whatever reason, conventional farming, whatever the case, in this case micronutrients, and there was something going on in that hay that the cattle knew, because there were some tremendous outcomes. The one was he noticed his mineral consumption. He separated the lots out and was able to come to the conclusion was for a given lot of cows and heifers, he'd use about 19 bags of mineral for a given time frame. I think it was a week or 2. That went down to 1 with some of his lots. 19 bags of mineral to 1 is, it almost sounds like I'm making that up. But if you talk to the man, he'll tell you the same thing. It's amazing. And then he started noticing, he knows his cattle really well. The cattle coats were looking different. I've got data, and I can't show all the data. But his conception rates, his open rates went down. His weaning rates went up. And he saw enough after the first year was he buys a lot of alfalfa and feed and grass from neighboring states. The second year, he only bought hay that was treated with Ensoil Algae. He saw so much from his cow herd the first year, he said, I'll give you a premium if you sell to me if you use this new product I found called Ensoil Algae. The third year, he didn't have 1 pound of feed come to his farm unless it was treated. He saw that much benefit from his cow herd, and all he was doing was just adding a treatment of algae. I kind of leave it at that because I know I'm not necessarily staying in a big cattle country, but I spent a week this past summer. I was on Brian's ranch. He had an Angus tour. That he was one of the stops on that tour. There was probably 350 ranching families that were part of that tour. And as of this summer, we had 112 customers in the Montana, Idaho area using algae. And some, I was talking to them, said, yeah, we started using it because, we wanted to sell to Brian. And he says, that's not the case anymore. We're buying it because we see what it's doing. So just a really nice success story. I've got a video, but there's no need to watch the video. He pulled some additional tests over a bunch. These are all samples that he pulled from fields that were treated and not treated. And I think him and a lot of us are seeing why, some of the attributes, the weaning rates, the open rates being less. Just on the three things we decided to measure, A, E, and D, those, like every sample came back with those elevated results in vitamin A, D, and E, which are very important for animal health. Those are all the valleys and fields we pulled it from. Obviously a really good result, but that's percent uplift in those three attributes from just Ensoil Algae treated. All right, I think I went a hair over. I hope I at least got your attention on a really good product. I'm actually not too bad over. I would encourage you, if you're interested, our website is the livecellalgaegroup.com. We've got some other things going on there around some other products, but right now, just stay focused on the ag sector. The other products is products to come. Right now, our only product right now is Ensoil for ag production. Go to the Learning Center. We have a lot of nice data and supporting data if you want to learn more. If you're interested in buying algae, Larry would be the one you talk to. He'll be our dealer for this area. With that said, I'm a little bit over, Larry. I can answer questions or...
Is there any questions for Shannon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you seen anything with corn silage?
Yes. Yeah, Wes Lundeen in Garden City, Kansas. He's been putting it on for the last 3 seasons on irrigated corn silage. In that part of the world, you have to irrigate it. Maybe you don't, not so up here. Tremendous differences. I've got results. I decided not to show today, but Wes is extremely happy with a lot of 1.5 to 2 tons increased production per acre from algae on his irrigated. It's basically a sorghum sedan that he catches for silage. He's attached to a beef feedlot there in southwest Kansas. What got his attention was Wes. They play a lot of triticale on his circles behind when they chop the silage off. And he had one circle of triticale that he drilled behind one of the circles where he had the sorghum sedan silage on. This would have been basically a year ago, or a year ago last fall. He drilled a triticale and then they grazed the heck out of it in late winter, early spring. His ranch guys were saying, "What's going on with circle F or whatever it was?" He goes, "Why do you ask?" He says, "I don't know, why does it look so much better than all the other triticale around?" It took about 1.5 minutes of investigating on Wes's part. He says, "Well, that's the one we put that algae stuff on." And there was, I don't like to say that because our protocol is you want to treat every year. But in this case, and he put 3 shots on. He put 3 applications through the pipe, through the fertigation on his sorghum sedan silage. There was obviously some good stuff going on from a soil function standpoint where it carried over to the triticale circle. And that was the only triticale out of 5 that was behind they all were behind the silage. That was the one that happened behind algae treated silage. So he's treated all 6 of his triticale circles this past fall. And then he's treating, last time I talked to Wes, he was going to treat all 28 circles on his farm or on his ranch. Not just the silage, but his triticale. He grows a lot of corn as well. So anyway, kind of extended answer, but yeah, we've seen some good things. You saw the Milo data, which is a similar species. That particular grass crop responds really well to algae. It's part of the system. Any other questions?
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
We do have some cattle feeders in the room here, and I think it'd be very interesting. I think we could see this with other products as well, but that's something we've talked about in previous years is the nutrient density that we're definitely improving that over just commercial programs. So that's the kind of thing we're going to see with a lot of the biological world, just better quality products. It's unfortunate that we don't get paid for that higher nutrient density in our corn and soybeans that we grow. Hopefully that could change someday.
Yeah.